Hello. Number 5. Number 5 coming. Here we go. Pencil. Naked realization. Just now, an assistant came and announced that the rain isn't stopping, and people may not be able to hear if the meeting is held in the rain. Suppose the rain stopped right now. Then would you hear? I say it is best the rain doesn't stop. Why? Because you are not deliberately trying to listen. How about when they say the sound of the rain has given you a sermon? Is that correct? I do not agree. The sound of the rain is you giving a sermon. But do you understand? Clarify it directly. Then what else is there? People who go journeying to studies in today should bring a statement to harmonize with the teacher. Why do you pain yourself and cramp yourself as you do? Let me also ask you, what teacher would you harmonize with? If you want to harmonize with a teacher, just get to know your own mind. Now let me ask you, what is your mind? And how do you know it? Here you cannot force an understanding. You must actually look inward and discover it. The ancients had no choice but to make provisional explanations where there is no explanation, skillfully employing expedient means where there are no expedients. One day, when Xuan Sha went into the mountains, he encountered a tiger. His assistant told him there was a tiger there, but Xuan Sha just said, "It's your tiger." Now, with mountains and rivers crisscrossing the land, domains of existence everywhere, discriminating thoughts branching off in 1,000 ways and diverging in 1,000,000 ways, how can you explain the logic of "it's yours"? If you don't understand this, you will be fatally obstructed everywhere. It's just because you've been following material senses and been influenced by things since time immemorial. You try to point out what are things and what are you. This is why a seeker asked Xuan Sha, "I have just entered the community. Please show me the way of access." And Xuan Sha said, "Do you hear the sound of the valley stream?" The seeker said, "Yes." Xuan Sha said, "Gain access from here." Nowadays, people do not directly understand this story, simply saying, "The essence of the mind is omnipresent. Who else hears?" Well, what relevance is this sort of discourse? You must be completely naked before you attain realization. For now, I ask you, have you dressed? You can be so shameless. It's kind of interesting. I enjoy reading them out loud. You get something else out of them, I think. But my boyfriend Foyan is easy to understand. Some of these others are just not. So I have no idea what our next Zen master is going to be. Well, I think I know. Anyway, I probably will do Bodhidharma or Hungbo. I like to call him Hungbo Po. Anyway, seeing mind. As soon as you rationalize, it is hard to understand. You must refrain from rationalization before you can attain realization. Hearing such talk, some people immediately declare, "I have nothing to say at all, and no reason either." They do not realize this is in fact a rationalization. I will settle something for you right now. The ultimate rule is to see your own mind clearly. This is what Buddhism is, as far as I'm concerned. And Nietzsche said, "The mind does not know itself. The mind does not see itself. So how can you see it clearly?" Even though it is your own mind, it's hard to see. All the sages, since time immemorial, have been people who clearly saw their own minds. My late teacher was someone who saw his own mind, but among those here who were also associated with him in the past, there are very few who clearly see their own minds. Mind does not see mind. To get it, you must not see it as mind. This is the realm apart from thoughts. Now, if I say this to people, they think I'm criticizing everyone else. But if I do not talk about it, it'll be hard to elucidate. Zen teachers of a certain type say to people, "Fools, you don't understand this thing," or "Why don't you understand this thing?" Well, first they make a cliché out of your own mind, then they try to use mind to rationalize it. This is called driving a spike into a stump and then running round and round the stump. They pass it on this way, and it is taken up in this way, knocking on their chairs and holding up their whisks. This is called trying to use the mind by means of the mind. There's another type of Zen teacher who tells people not to make logical assessments, that they lose contact the minute they speak, and should recognize the primordial. This kind of teacher has no explanation at all. This is like sitting on a balloon. Where is there any comfort in it? It is also like the croaking of a bullfrog. If you entertain such a view, it is like being trapped in a black fog. I'm exhorting you in utter seriousness. I'm not lying. I'm not making up rationalizations to trap people. I will not allow people to oppress the free. I have no such reasons. If you recognize this, that is up to you. If you say you also see this way, that is up to you. If you say that everything is all right according to your perception, that is up to you. If you say your mind is still uneasy, that is up to you. You can only attain realization if you don't deceive yourself. There are quite a few Zen teachers in the world talking about Zen, talking about Tao. Do you think they are self-deceived or not self-deceived? Do you think they are deceiving others or not deceiving others? It is imperative to discern minutely. In the old days, when I was in the school of my late teacher, I once adopted an invitation to go somewhere. Accepted, not adopted. On the way, I ran into a downpour and slipped in the mud. Feeling annoyed, I said to myself, I'm on a journey, but I've been unable to attain Zen. I haven't eaten all day, and now I have to endure this misery too. Then, I happened to hear two people ranting at each other, "You're still annoying yourself." When I heard this, I suddenly felt overjoyed. Then I realized I couldn't find a state where there is no annoyance. That was because I could not break through my feeling of doubt. It took me 4 or 5 years after that to attain this knowledge. Now you should exercise your attention in this way. I have brought up the saying that inanimate things teach, but many are those who misunderstand. When you see inanimate things, you say they are inanimate. And when you see animate things, you consider them animate. If you, who study Zen, do not understand the teaching of the inanimate, how could you understand the task of the journey? If those who act as teachers do not understand the teaching of the inanimate, how can they deal with people in beneficial ways? I urge you to closely examine enough to effect an awakening. If you do not yet have an awakened perspective, then approach it in a relaxed manner. Do not rush. Discovery. My teacher used to tell a metaphysical story. Suppose 2 people from a foreign country come to a great nation to investigate things. When they first enter the territory, the 2 have a discussion and decide to part ways. One will go east, the other west. From state to state they go, country to country, traveling over hill and dale, until they arrive at the eastern capital. The two suddenly run into each other at the gate of the capital city, and as they look at each other without saying a word, the things they had discussed in their own country are clear. Now they go in, side by side, unknown to everyone. Strange. Tell me, how is it when they run into each other? It is like Zen practitioners working. Today they realize a little bit, tomorrow they find out a little bit, and they keep on investigating, until one day it becomes evident to them. This is like that encounter at the gate of the capital city. This is called awakening, or breakthrough, or discovery. You must attain this, at least once. Only then can it be said that the task of the journey is done. It's also like meeting your father in a big city many years after having left your hometown. You do not need to ask anyone whether or not it is your father. Just keep focused in this way. Do not take it for idleness. Time does not wait for anyone. An early teacher said, "Don't waste time. Each of you should work on your own." Show the truth. An ancient said, "There is no drum sound in a bell, and no bell sound in a drum." How can students today manage to reach this state? Sometimes, when I give personal interviews, you make a statement, and then I press you further. You merely insist that you have already replied, and there could be nothing else. Quite clearly, if you work in this way, you still do not have a grip on the matter at all. Idiots! Haven't you read the saying of the ancient sages? Show me the truth in every word, refer to the source in every statement. You do not yet understand, you just adopt positions at random. Don't be like this anymore when you come for interviews. While it can be said you don't understand, you can be straightened out. While it can be said you don't understand, you can be straightened out. Real Zen. Real Zen. Real Zen. And we gonna let the real Zen in. I am so disrespectful, treating my boyfriends so casually, but I love him. He loves me. Those who claim to be Zenists must trust in what people who know say before they will attain it. If you do not believe, you make all talk useless. If you just listen without believing to the talks of people who know, how can you be called Zenists? Real Zenists understand it all when the grass bends in the breeze. Real Zenists understand it all when the grass bends in the breeze. When the dust rises in the wind, they discern immediately, before any signals have occurred, before falling into trains of thought, before anything stirs. Only then can one be called a Zenist. Why? This thing is used against birth and death, so you have to be someone who's not far off in order to get it. Haven't you read how Yun Yan studied with Baizang for 20 years without clarifying this matter? We have the teachings of Baizang as well. We might go to him. I'm not so sure. He seems pretty advanced. Well, it's about time I gave you guys some Zen that sounded like Zen. Okay, alright, back to work. His elder brother, Dao Wu, bit his finger to the quick out of concern for him. Okay, so he stayed with Mr. Baizang for like 20 years and he couldn't quite get it. So his elder brother said, "I'm Charlie." See how that man of old still did not worry, even though we hadn't clarified this matter, saying he did not understand? His will never gave out, and he didn't go chasing after verbal expressions either. And how about Master Zeifeng, who went to Tozi 3 times and Dongsheng 9 times? When he was at the Taozi school, one day he rolled up the screen and entered the hermitage. When Tausi saw him coming, he got off his bench and stood. Zefeng hesitated, searching for something to say, and Tausi pushed him out. Zefeng could only cry. Later, when he went to Dongshan, he was still unable to understand. And then, when he went to Dongshan, when he went to Deishan, he asked, "Has the student a part in the enlightenment of the sages of time since time immemorial?" Deishan hit him and exclaimed, "What are you saying?" At that, Zefeng's mind opened up, like a bucket with the bottom fallen out. When he got to Tortoise Mountain, however, he said he still had some doubt. Seeing how that man of old would not rest until his massive doubt had been broken up. So it is said, the task done, the mind rests. This actuality, after all, is everywhere you find it. Nowadays, most Zen students create interpretations based on words, arbitrarily assuming mastery. Or else, they take stories of the ancients' awakenings and look at them, calling this gazing at sayings. What relevance is there? When Zefeng went to Tausi 3 times and Dongshan 9 times, do you suppose he did it for the sake of words? You should simply step back and study through the total experience. How do you step back? I'm not telling you to sit on a bench with your eyes closed, rigidly suppressing body and mind like earth or wood. That'll never have any usefulness, even in 1,000,000 years. When you want to step back, if there are any sayings or stories you don't understand, place them in front of you. Step back and see for yourself why you don't understand. Professional monks say, thinking will not do. Not thinking will not do either. Well, then how do they teach people to contemplate? I tell you, just step back and look. Phew. Sure gives people trouble. Sure is hard to understand. But look here. What is it that troubles people? Who is it that troubles anyone? Step back and look in this way. Gradually you will wake up. With each passing day, illumination will expand and enlarge. And yet, you should not frantically recognize this all alone and immediately. And yet, you should not frantically recognize this alone and immediately claim perfect attainment. For then you are dependent and fixated. Then it will be ineffective. You must apply some wisdom in your observation. The ancients allowed you to focus on a route. If you stop and step back in this way, I guarantee there is a reason. This is what is considered incomprehensible and not susceptible to knowledge. There is also a type who talks wildly and speaks at random, questioning this and that. Again, just step back and look. What is it that talks wildly and speaks randomly? Just turn your attention around and reflect. Go on working like this, and eventually you will be sure to awaken. If you don't believe it, there's nothing I can do about that. When I first called on a certain teacher, he taught me to contemplate this saying. What is the great meaning of Buddhism? Next to the city of the King of Chu, the rivers flow eastward. Oh, I'm sorry, I paused it too much. The whole saying is, what is the great meaning of Buddhism? And the reply statement is, next to the city of the King of Chu, the river flows eastward. He also taught me to contemplate the saying, it is not the movement of the wind, nor the movement of the flag, but the movement of your mind. Then, when I left, and went to call on teachers all over the land, I asked them questions. The ancients were wholly true to reality, and the old teachers explained in countless ways, but I simply could not understand. Finally, I left to eastern China, but halfway there I turned around and came back. Now I was told to contemplate the story, if you kill your parents, you repent before Buddha. If you kill Buddha, where do you repent? Yunmen said, exposed. This case study is this case is like a hot iron ball in the mind. And I suffered all kinds of trouble for 7 years. Those of you who have studied Zen for a long time will know what I mean. Let me tell you another story. When Hui Tang started to study Zen, he first saw Yunfing Yu. For 3 years he could not understand what Yunfing was talking about. He also studied Zen with Master Nan, and after 2 years still did not understand. Then he went to spend a summer retreat in a cloister. In Transmission of the Lamp, he read the story where someone asked Dao Fu, what is the bamboo grove of Dao Fu? He replied, 1 cane, 2 canes slanted. This Hua Tang finally opened up and awakened. Nowadays people just call these dialogues. This is because of lack of perception in applying effort, or precision. This is because of lack of precision in applying effort, failing to understand the expedient devices of the ancients. I urge each one of you, since you are already in a society, to study the path independently, not spending any time uselessly, taking enlightenment as your rule. Should I stop now? Maybe about 30 minutes. Okay. Wonder. Association with good companions is a serious recommendation of the ancient sages. Students today should follow the words of the Buddhas and patriarchs by finding a teacher to attain discernment. Otherwise, how can you call yourselves students? If you want to clarify this matter, you must rouse wonder and look into it. If you wonder deeply about this matter, transcendental knowledge will become manifest. Why? The task of the journey just requires the sense of doubt to cease. If you do not actively wonder, how can the sense of doubt cease? My teacher was 35 years old before he became a monk. He stayed in the city of Qingdao to listen to the lectures on the 100 phenomenon as only representation. There he heard the saying of how, when a Buddhist enters the path of insight, knowledge and principle merge, environment and mind join, and there is no distinction between that which realizes and what is realized. A Hindu challenged the Buddhists.
If there is no distinction between what realizes and what is realized, what is used as proof?
Well, no one can answer this challenge, so the Buddhists were declared the losers in the debate. Later, the Buddhist canonical master of Tang came to the rescue of the doctrine. When knowledge and principle merge, environment and mind unite. It is like when drinking water, one spontaneously knows whether it is cool or warm. Now, my teacher thought, well, it may be cool or warm, all right, but what is the business of spontaneous knowing? He wondered and questioned very deeply. He asked the lecturer about the principle of spontaneous knowing, but the lecturer could not answer. Instead, he said, if you want to clarify this principle, I cannot explain it. But in the South, there are adepts who have found out the source of the enlightened mind. They know about this matter. You will have to journey for it. And so, my teacher went traveling. He went to the capital city and all around the eastern riverlands, asking every Zen adept he could find about this matter. And everyone he asked gave him a reply. Some explained, some spoke in aphorisms. In any case, his feeling of doubt remained unbroken. Later, he came to Foyan. seeing that everything Foyan said in lectures and interviews was relevant to what was in his mind. He wound up staying there for a year. Foyan had him contemplate the phrase, Buddha had a secret saying. Cassiopeia didn't conceal it. Oh, I get that now. Neat, fun. One day, Foyan said to him, why didn't you come earlier? Why didn't you come earlier? You should go call on Foyan. So my teacher went to Foyan. One day, when he entered into the teaching auditorium, all of a sudden he realized great enlightenment. Buddha has a secret saying. Cassiopeia didn't conceal it. Of course, of course. When knowledge and principle merge, environment and mind unite. It is like when one drinks water, one spontaneously knows whether it's warm or cold. How true these words are! Then he composed a verse upon his attainment. At an idle patch of field before the mountain, politely I questioned an aged grandfather, how many times have I bought and sold myself? Charmingly, the pine and the bamboo drew a clear breeze. When Foyan read this, he nodded. Is this not a case of doubting and wondering profoundly, approaching people who know, and then, only then, succeeding in clarification? What about the travels of my late teacher calling on teachers? Why did he later say he questioned an aged grandfather? What about selling and buying oneself? What is that? You should realize there is no excess. What the man of old said is all you. He also said, I have never had a single statement to reach you. If I had a statement to reach you, what use would it be? Do you want your feeling of doubt to be broken? You too must be like my late teacher once, before you can accomplish it. That's enough of that for the time being. Thank you.